Photography. It can be a really expensive hobby, especially when you start looking at mirrorless camera options. But what about mobile photography? Well, then it's still not a cheap hobby. However, if you want to save a bit of money and still get a solid camera setup, how do phones like the Vivo X200 and the Xiaomi 15 stack up? While they are still a pretty decent penny to purchase, it's definitely cheaper than their big brothers and their flagship versions. So let's compare the two and see how they measure up against each other. In this comparison, we are once again pitting two of the biggest brands in mobile photography against each other. Their approaches for photography really reminds me and gives a very similar narrative to my comparison between the Xiaomi 15 Ultra and the Vivo X200 Pro. From the brightest shots that you get on Vivo to the deeper, darker contrast that you see on Xiaomi. Each phone brings a unique and different style to the table, but both are somewhat compact and more affordable compared to their flagship siblings. I've discussed the difference between Xiaomi and Vivo for a while now, and when it comes to photography, this again will stir up a divided conversation. Some will swear by Xiaomi, while others will swear by Vivo. That being said, I really want to talk about the experience of it. I really don't want to steer you towards a certain narrative where you should like a certain device better or not. And if you do like shooting in auto, I will say that Vivo has some really good tricks up its sleeve. The effect adjustment. This allows you to change your entire shooting experience, and that will be saved as your standard. Want a shot with more contrast, less brightness, more sharpening, or maybe a little less of that signature saturation that Vivo is known for? Well, Vivo gives you that option. For me, this is one of the reasons why I do like the experience on Vivo. I can customize it and match my personal preference. And so can you. Now, Xiaomi also has its own features, with Leica Vibrant and Leica Authentic in terms of modes. But those options that I spoke about on the Vivo are limited to the Pro mode, where Vivo gives you that flexibility in Auto and Pro. In return though, Xiaomi really excels with color contrast and shadows. That deep, moody feel is something that is really hard to match on any other phone. So when it comes to mobile photography, it's all about what you value. Is it the customization and the flexibility that Vivo offers and the reliability? Or is it that sharp contrast that Xiaomi really delivers and gets close to that Leica legacy? One thing is for sure, both phones have something special to offer. And the question remains, which one do you choose? One of my most used sensors will probably always be the periscope or the telephoto. The same counts here. Having that zoom range not only allows you to get closer to the subject, but also compresses the shot. Now, what does this compression to the shot mean? It's something that I explained before with my Nubia Z70 Ultra video.
Now what makes this Nubia Z70 Ultra so interesting is the focal length of the main camera. This is a 35mm equivalent where normally a phone comes with 23 or 24. The difference that it makes is that it compresses the shot a lot more. Imagine a 24 or 23mm equivalent. If you take a shot, kind of looks like this. It looks stretched out. But when you take a 35mm equivalent, things get closer to it.
This way of shooting gives you a compression that I personally prefer. And that is why I'm really excited about the upcoming X200 Ultra that is rumored to have a 35mm equivalent main sensor. It has me really excited. Now let's go back to the zoom levels on both cameras though. They take a slightly different approach when it comes to the zoom. Xiaomi features a telephoto with a 60mm equivalent lens, while on the Vivo it offers a 70mm equivalent lens. But with the Vivo we do have to mention that it has the largest sensor out of the two. However, I do find that Xiaomi's telephoto is a little bit more consistent, much like its big brother. Autofocus is quick and consistently reliable. But when it comes to the overall experience and how shots come out, apart from the difference in the focal lengths, they perform very similar to the main sensor. And honestly, a lot of my story with these two devices is basically the same as my comparison between the Xiaomi 15 Ultra and the Vivo X200 Pro. But of course, naturally, with a little bit less details, and of course the Xiaomi 15 Ultra and X200 Pro will perform better here. But with that being stated, both perform really well and both have been really reliable for me while shooting, whether it's broad daylight or in low light. The ultra-wide camera. Unlike the telephoto or periscope, it's one of my least used sensors. There are limited times when I feel like I can properly utilize it, but nonetheless it matters. And just like the telephoto and periscope comparison, there are some key differences between the two. The big one though is that the Xiaomi 15 has a 14mm equivalent focal length. Now compare that to the Vivo X200, which has a 15mm equivalent focal length. This results in images that are a bit more wide on the Xiaomi, and that does allow for a bit more of that dramatic wide angle shot. Though apart from that, they are very similar, like the sensor size. The difference isn't going to be a day and night between the two, with each having their own natural way of approaching the shot. While I don't use the ultra-wide a lot, I do want to ask you, how would you rate these two when it comes to that? And do you think they are wide enough or not? Now, when it comes to comparisons, there are moments when I cannot properly utilize both of the cameras at the same time, be it for portrait, be it for macro, or be it because of the weather itself, or the limited time that I have both of the devices. With the Xiaomi 15, sadly, that's a reality of it. It had to be used to fund the Xiaomi 15 Ultra to provide you content with it. I do hope that you understand that side of this story, and while I would love to show you more of that, simply there are limitations here that I had to deal with. But I do still hope that you are enjoying the video so far.
bit less noisy, just to focus on the camera quality of it, the colors. It's a bit close in terms of like in between the two. In terms of colors, I feel like the Vivo is a little bit too warm, but the Xiaomi is a tad, just a tad too cold. Times 0.6, of course, ultra wide. Just on the screen itself. Close. Front facing camera on both, 4K 60 frames per second. Vivo is definitely softer. I would say colors are probably a little bit closer also on the Vivo, but a bit more saturated than reality. Range also seems a bit better, definitely better on the Vivo as well. Between the two in terms of front-facing camera at this 4K 60 frames per second. 4K 60 frames per second, both the Xiaomi 15 and of course the Vivo X200. Both can switch between different focal lengths. See, both overexposure on the light. It is raining today, so there can be a little bit of rain. Both of them 2.6 times versus 3 times. Again, you can see like the difference of approaches as well, very much on both of them, where the Xiaomi does retain light quite a lot there. Like it's more dramatic as well. Zoom out to the ultra wide again. Much softer on the Xiaomi compared to the Vivo.
So that was my comparison between the Xiaomi 15 and of course the Vivo X200. Let me know in the comments below which has your preference out of these two, because of course when it comes to style and the way that it looks, it's going to be very different between these two. One has the size collaboration, it's a bit more brighter, a bit more saturated, and the other one is Leica, and of course that's a bit more contrasty and a very different approach to photography. So I'm very curious which out of these two you would pick when it comes to these phones. Definitely though, when it comes to zoom, even without its AI features, the Vivo will win in this case. Either way, before we leave, I really want to thank my members. Thank you so much for the support that you guys have been giving me. I really appreciate it. And of course, if you want to become a member, you can click join somewhere below. I think it's next to subscribe and become a member and get some raw files and of course files that are shot with both of these phones and some others. Either way, don't forget to subscribe, like and everything, and talk to you guys in the next.